it's more for equipment storage, salt storage, those types of things. And so that's kind of why it is a little bit of an odd shape. And then we just need some area to store materials, and that's why this was kind of left in there as a little bit of additional area, but that can be negotiated, straighten this line out a little bit better kind of a thing. But overall, 12 to 14 acres is what, when we all said and done, everything that we're currently envisioning for the city, as far as public works, parks and cemetery, detention basin, we feel that that's what could be available for other uses.
Pardon me, but did you include the decap?
Yes, that's just in the public works side in the chart here. So it's just one of the other items in the facilities.
Would public works be relocating, or rather than maintain the Samite Lane property?
That would move everything. So that property then would be available.
How many acres there versus here?
3 is what's currently there. I think it's 3 total, and here it's 9.
But when we did our analysis, you guys were storing things throughout the city.
Oh, yeah.
I think we calculated you use almost 10 acres.
So that was trying to bring everything to one location from all of these small little equipment, different materials throughout the city and different little parcels. So trying to get it all on one piece.
So under that, we would need to, in essence, build new administrative offices for public works, and everything else we could use existing buildings and kind of update those. Is that?
So, well, the overall public works facility would be new. So that's your storage, that's your equipment, like your big trucks, pull-ins, things like that. Those buildings specifically could be refurbished to work and save some significant amount of money. That's why we said let's just. But it's not only offices, I guess, for public works. It is the main public works facility, and then these become our equipment storage areas. So we have to reconstruct new areas with sheds and things like that to cover our equipment.
And is the basin concrete?
So we're kind of looking at that as well as a kind of a two-use facility. We want to be able to utilize some of our we have some water. It's called No Name Springs. It comes down through this area, and we could utilize some of that into the pressure irrigation system. So we're kind of planning it to put in a pump here that would pump into the pressure irrigation. So the bottom portion would be concrete. The upper portion would probably be some sort of a rock-lined basin.
Would it be a pond then, essentially, or would it?
Yeah, the very bottom portion would be a pond with some water in it.
Fenced?
Completely fenced within the public works facility.
Could we vote on a name for the springs?
Somebody else already did it.
But they've done it nobody. So I think, well, if I could
call it something.
So we have this remaining 12 to 14 acres. The group that's approached us, the North Utah County Soccer.
Yes, it's part of the Utah Youth Soccer Association.
So they collect a fee whenever somebody registers for soccer, what they call legacy fields, and so they estimate they have.
This is new. It
Yes.
used to be that you would sign your kids up and then you would just hope that your team could find a home field.
Yeah.
But about 3 years ago, they started charging every registration with what's called the legacy fee, which is now every person, because they don't have any fields. They don't have enough fields. So they knew there needed to be some development field money.
And they generate about $300,000 a year from this.
And that's up.
Yeah, and they're looking for some fields in this area, and because most of North Utah County is built out, at least on the east side of I-15, this is one of the few parcels of significant size. And so they've kind of deemed this their #1 project area that they'd like to do something. The person that's heading this up is Jake Carter. He's a resident of Pleasant Grove. And so we sat down with him a couple of times. We've battered around ideas, but we've never really gotten too far with them just because we needed to figure out the fire station thing and some of the other planning that went out with this. So they estimate they need 6 to 8 acres. They would love to do a city would have use for part of the time, and then they kind of have private use for part of the time. And so I've asked Jay to give us a formal proposal as to what they would want that we could bring back to you as a council and to see what you would want to consider there. And once we get that, I think he said probably by March, then we can kind of further that discussion. And then there's probably going to be some land left, and if we don't deem the city use, then we can consider selling it to development and getting that money back into the storm drain fund. Because initially we were going to double the soccer fields in the storm drain fund, so because it was going to be used for storm drainage, we weren't going to need to pay the storm drain fund back to those to that area. But now that we have a separate basin, if we do put soccer fields there, then that has to pay back the storm drain fund that cost people. So we're just working. I just said, give us a proposal, give us something our council can look at and act on and to discuss. So he's going to give us something in writing.
So, on the space utilization, the blue line, how does that compare in size to the current cemetery that's just adjacent to it?
You're saying what difference of, this is 5.2 acres, and how many acres is this
Right.
piece?
Approximately.
I think it's like 8 acres. You want me to find it for exact?
It's just approximate. It's not a spreadsheet.
I think it's
8 acres or so. This is 5.2, 8 or 9 acres is probably that existing.
Okay, we can hold it down. So how fast is that filling up?
So currently,
Like from when we acquired it till,
well, I don't know, from first east to first west is sold out. We're no longer selling any lots in that area. It's pretty much sold out. We're starting the process of going back through the old records and seeing what's available. If there are any lots, then they would be single lots. They wouldn't be like a family lot. But E, the furthest section in the new section, the furthest section south, that's sold out. And F and G are the two in between the roadways there. And we've started opening up, so when we first did,
you want to get up and point it out?
Yeah.
You can use your straw or.
so this is E, F, G. And if you look and kind of can see, we've kind of done them in rows, and now we're infilling those rows. One of the things so we'll have families come in and purchase 5, 10, even a whole lot at a time. And so necessarily what you see as far as headstones isn't a true representation of what is available. So we figure we probably have 7, 8 years before we're sold out. Now, they won't all be used by then.
But it doesn't matter whether it's
Right, we won't have places, but unless we start limiting purchases, like American Forecast and those types of things. One of the things we're seeing too is, and that's why I think we're going to be okay with the 4 to 6 acres and then maybe the houses. We're really starting to see an increase in cremations. And so,
Information.
so, you know, we go and purchase a couple niches and they're costly, 20 to 50,000 depending on which type you buy. But the same 4x8 space, that currently our policy allows 8 cremains, we can get 48. So, and you charge the same fee for that niche as you would a lot. That's kind of the standard through all the cemeteries.
And do those go up?
They do go up. And they're priced, some cemeteries will price them differently, so your high ones and your low ones are a little cheaper than the ones that are high level. But anyway, so I think acreage-wise for the future, and when we did this, it was 100 years out, is what we planned on. So, but I think we're, in the near future, this year we'd like to get this design and some cost estimates of what that's going to take.
The blue
revised plan schematic we had 6 acres. And then with this proposal that you're looking at now, it cuts back to like 4, but then we have the fouls problem.
If that ever happens.
You're right.
Yeah, we don't control our own destiny necessarily with fouls.
Right.
So far, we've been willing to work with it.
And there could be a little more property too, Rocky Mountain Power, the old substation, that could become available. But it's very minimal
That one there, to the
piece
south.
of property, yeah. Well, actually, Marty has it shown in the drawing, so.
It's just to the right of the blue line, or green line,
Are you saying so?
Yes, that old substation right there.
right there.
Then who owns that directly to the east of the proposed pipe plant? I mean, the proposed, work.
Right
So
there.
that power is
That's
that.
Rocky Mountain Power Substation.
That's
They
the
have
trucks.
one review substation, they've got plans to, I think in the future, expand one more right here, and then they would abandon this one.
Oh, okay.
So are they leasing that from the fouls? You've
No,
got
they own it.
They own
because you have it drawn in as part of the fouls.
Well, I was just saying this final cemetery layout would include the abandonment of that, and they would put the new one here, so at some point we would acquire that from Rocky Mountain Power.
And we know that, I mean, we've been
I
having
don't know if
conversations.
any discussions have been specifically with them now.
Okay.
But we do know they planned for 2 on this side and the abandonment of that. So I don't know if they want to sell it. They actually own some of this other property here too.
So Mayor, on Orem, on the east side above the Work Perfect campus, they literally, in future cemetery projections, they built that huge, place that, where everybody plays soccer. And, 2 years ago, they informed, the soccer clubs that that area was not going to be available anymore, that they were going to start selling those up. So I think it was a great move for Orem. I don't know when cities we've gotten the burial business, but, isn't it, it's an expensive, thing that we do.
So I've talked to Dion about this, and he's very conservative. I keep worrying that there's not enough contiguous space that we already have under our control that's identified and reserved for the cemetery. I mean, we have potential, but over here we own it. And to me, there's a big difference between we own it and it might happen, and we have to spend more money.
Right.
So I'm looking at what we already own, and I'm thinking, projection-wise, how far out is the 5.2 or the 7 if you go to the left?
Well, so
How many
Dave
years
Thomas,
is that?
Dave Thomas is now a new, lot owner.
Yeah, I own property in Pleasant Grove.
So
Where Gravesite here?
Yes.
Okay.
We do have a lot of our residents, Orem residents purchase our lots because we do allow upright headstones, where in Orem they don't. Everything is flush mount in Orem, and so we have a lot of Orem residents come this way.
Could
Yeah.
compromise if we ever say PG residence only, or not?
We already charge non-residents a higher fee.
Yes, they do.
He could have claimed his daytime address.
So Leo, what's the projection? How many years are we looking at?
Well, originally, when we did the study to begin the process, we figured 10 acres for 100 years.
So 10 years per acre?
Yeah.
7
10 years per acre,
70
pretty much. But like I say, we are starting to see, the trend shifting from the traditional burials to the cremains type burials, so, which is a different, you still need some acreage to do that, because you'd like to have a place for them, like a memorial garden type thing, that you set those up. Like, if you go up into the Larkin cemeteries, they have a couple big mausoleums. It all just depends on how you lay it out. to give up, so if we want to plant a tree along one of the roadways, that's 10 burial spots that we deduct from the total, just so that that tree can grow. Then we have our irrigation lines and power lines and things through there too, that we have to, kind of like a road, you have to have a corridor through the area.
So what I'm hearing is you're not committing to a number or a time frame, kind of giving us but overall, it's about 100 years if you did 10 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would tell me you have an area that's like Warren did, potentially available to grow into it for cemetery, but you may use it for something else in the meantime until you reach that point.
Yeah, and I think follow up on that, as I look at this, if we extended it and went 7 acres and felt good about, okay, that should get us through the next 70 years, is that the responsibility of the city council today to get us that far? And if we feel good about that, then we need to get it engineered, we need to get it laid out, because the irrigation system is probably one of the biggies right now, trying to figure out how we're going to do that for the future plan. But then we can get that site cleared and, get it, some grass on it, and then like what you're saying there, is we can have potentially use at least for a few years. But it sounds like we might be within 5 years, 6, 7 years, starting to actually need to use some funds there.
Yeah, and currently, I'm trying to think how many years back. It's probably been 6 years since we started. Well, it's been a little longer now, maybe 10. But we started to sell sections in the D lot. And 5 years ago, we started selling an F. And it's just really increased as time goes on. I think one of our big needs, and that's what we'd like to incorporate into the plan, is some type of memorial garden. Even if it's one person that comes in and does a cremation, currently they have to buy that whole lot, that whole 4x8 section for one, niche. And, or not a niche, but what do you call them? Anyway, a little base, right? The cremains themselves. And so at times we're wasting, quite a bit of property. And if we have those options for them, we could save a lot of property.
And Mayor, before talking about, we don't own this, doesn't it make sense to, identify 10 acres that would actually come across here and all contiguous, rather than always potentially having homes in the middle of the cemetery? This could be pretty easily designed with cul-de-sac and homes in this area. There are other uses that would work on that piece if it was determined that making a contiguous park for 10 acres here, or a cemetery for 10 acres there, might make more sense.
What I was looking at, you pointed out the Fowles property in UPNL. I went on the county website and started looking at property parcels on that southeast corner, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
So there's some kind of barrier mentally here, but that could ever be assembled and clean.
I think everything showed only has 2 property owners, though, the Fowles and Rocky Mountain.
Yeah, the one you're showing, but
Yes.
south of that yellow line,
There's a lot.
there's a lot. It just balloons into a lot. So the concept of coming down this way and making it contiguous with the rest of the cemetery that's about as close as we're going to get. So it would seem that going this way now with green space, and then maybe in the future, if some future council has to make that decision that it's where those buildings going to be and can you start coming down, or do you wrap around it with the rest of the green space that's there?
So, official number for you, 8.7 acres on that piece right there.
Thank you.
And you got 14 acres here of cemetery, not including the
I think we're 24 acres total out there, something like that.
I think to use a metric like 10 per year, or 10 per 100 years or something.
10-year maximize that area. So in some ways, we need to decide, okay, it's going to be 7 acres or 10 acres or whatever, and then we can turn the deed on and say, now master plan that, engineer that, and then let's start clearing it and getting some grass on it.
So council, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I'm trying to be responsible with the neighbors you have, looking to the future, like way into the future. So somebody else isn't sitting there looking at the 9 square acres of Pleasant Grove and going, we better buy land from American Fork for our cemetery.
I agree with all your thoughts, Mayor. One of the things that's interesting is the trends are changing, right? I mean, we don't know in 100 years how popular cremation will be or whatever, but we assume it's going to be more and more. Is it possible for us to do fields and later convert them?
It is, just like Orm. You've been up there, right? You've seen it.
Yeah, you would design your irrigation system to facilitate the cemetery, right? But you're watering that whole, even future roads, you wouldn't need to put the roads in right now. You can have big open green space, but you would design it all to facilitate the cemetery, which would cover, whatever you put in there now. So,
Well, and along those lines, I mean, if we do the 10 acres, then, we could divide it into 5 sections, and we open up H, I, J, K, and L, and we just start with H, and that's going to take, 15 years, and then as soon as that gets pretty close, we go I. So meanwhile, on the other side of that, we can probably play soccer or whatever.
Yeah,
For
we
30
can
years.
use whatever's not being used
Yeah.
for some other purpose, like some other purpose that doesn't have a building.
Yeah.
But to master plan, in this case, 30 acres,
And dedicate the cemetery.
and for future cemetery, then you can do things like, okay, mausoleums would go here, gardens would go here, this kind of thing, grow trees, whatever, and overall have a better picture of what a future cemetery would look like.
I think we'd want to plan that, at least, cemetery plan, and, as technologies change, the irrigation, everything like that. Just last year at our conference, the national average for cremains is 87%. So Utah's a little bit different. The rest of the nation, it's very popular. So it's slowly coming here, but I don't think you'll ever see the traditional burials completely go away. So.
That's probably more a function of land than it is maybe anything else. If you think back east, they don't have 40-acre, places available.
Well, a lot of places, their groundwater is so high they can't go
Yeah.
in there. So.
So, and on another note, so if we do, I have not personally had a conversation with football or lacrosse, which also uses the same field. I also know that, because home fields are so lacking, teams, pay to have a reserved space, which means that there is a funding, it's not just green space. If we can really be smart in how we expand the cemetery and we can get that to a point where people can play, you can make, enough money to pay for sprinkling and grass.
So from a legal perspective, can you guys figure out how the transfers and ownership has to take place between funds?
Yeah.
So that water gets reimbursed, storm drain gets reimbursed, cemeteries charged for what it needs to be, parks or recreation gets charged for the other, but there's an understanding that there's this pattern that will be followed for growth.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out, because we don't want to string out storm drain for too long. That they need to be paid back. That land's going to be dedicated 10 acres for that type of use.
Cemetery's already making payments
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
already.
They're making $75,000 a year, and they have this is probably at least the 3rd year, in anticipation that they didn't know how much they were going to use, but they were going to use some. So they've already started to.
So can we do the same thing with parks
Yep.
or recreation, whichever it is? I'm not sure how you would classify that.
I'm also just from the overall, all the enterprise funds, I mean, the storm drain paid for everything, but if a portion of this works, every one of those enterprise funds have a piece to give back. as well.
Right, they all need to go back to the storm drain.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments?
I had a quick question just about cemetery and middle budgetary. I mean, the plots we sell, do they cover all the costs of maintenance and everything else? Is the cemetery process in the city? Self-sustaining? Is it profitable?
They're not, they're two full-time employees. They have two full-time employees. The two full-time employees are paid for out of the general fund. And right now, the cemetery is doing a transfer of about $34,000 to the general fund to pay for those two full-time people, which isn't paying for the full cost. But for the most part, they're self-sustaining right now, except they're probably not paying the full cost of those two full-time employees, but they are paying a portion.
We've had two pretty good increases in our cemetery charges.
Yeah, last year we did, yeah.
Last year, and I think about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So once the person's purchased it and passed away and is using it, there is no more money coming in.
Yeah, once it's full.
Once it's full, so the burden for upkeep and maintenance falls to the new people that are acquiring it. And then the rest of it, in perpetuity, is the city,
Yes.
the residents.
It becomes a general fund thing.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll sit down with staff, we'll kind of remaster plan this and bring something back to the council. We'll talk about the financing mechanism of it.
Lynn, did you have any comments? Sorry.
No, I like what you're talking about. I think you need the full tank.
I think we'll head that down that road. We'll do the
Just
full-
join them at the top and then we can wrap around.
Yeah.
At least in the futures, somebody will have an option.
I'm like, I'll soon be a user, so.
Tell us how your experience went. And we'll follow suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Linda will tell us. What? My in-laws already have their headstones up with the names on them. I think our names are on without the dates.
This is creepy.
And they're planning on being cremated, so it's like, okay, I guess we're all being cremated. Okay, Marty, was there anything else you wanted to cover? Scott?
Good discussion.
All right.
Good direction.
Streetlights.
It's not the whole
I
day.
think this is your name all the way down the page.
I think we should do this every year.
You will get that Friday.
It's Marty days.
Do I break the news that we cut his touch didn't have to?
Yeah, we have that. Let me get my curve home.
We named the water fund the pizza fund.
We've been looking into the current cost of our streetlights. We currently have 1,117 streetlights that Rocky Mountain Power. It's kind of, they own most of them. I think we own power cable to those lights and boxes and things that you would need. This isn't any power like utility poles other than a light pole. And they came up with an evaluation of $521,000 is what they would be willing to sell it to the city for. What we're currently paying here is $220,000 per year for the maintenance and power for the streetlights. So the question is whether or not it makes sense to continue to go down that road, or whether or not we should look at purchasing this utility and then managing it ourselves. And that was a discussion we had with council before. We've had Black & McDonald, they're a contractor specifically for Rocky Mountain Power, but they also do other municipalities that have been through this process. They'll come in and contract to do the maintenance of it. They currently looked at it and said, okay, well, this is what the power will cost you for those 1,117 lights. They're varying wattages, so different wattages have different costs, but overall, $3,200 a month is what we've been paying. Right now, we're paying over $18,000 a month for the street lighting and power. So just the power cost is $3,200. So if we own all of them, that's what we would expect to spend for the power costs of those lights. The 4650 number is the amount that Black & McDonald said it would cost for the maintenance and repair of those lights. So bulb burns out, cable, something goes wrong with cable, things of that nature. If somebody runs into a pole, if it's not taken care of by the insurance for the damages, then that is not included in that maintenance cost. This is just the maintenance to keep the system running. So if you take the sum of those two numbers, the cost for the power and the maintenance is $94,200. $125,000. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, with $125,000, is it worth it for us to take this over? Right now, there would be an initial purchase option. What is the return on our investment if we go and purchase that for $521,000? How do we repay that? And then at what point do we start seeing some benefit back to the city? If you look at the lower portion of the proposal there, you get a loan from somewhere. Right now, we kind of looked at this and thought that the best location, if we were loaning it for ourselves out of our existing funds, the sewer fund would be the best place to maybe do an interdepartmental loan and come up with it. So then you would have to talk about a repayment of that fund over time. But what we looked at there is approximately about 6 years of repayment, $90,000 a year. The cost for the power and maintenance is the $78.50, which is the sum of the two upper numbers. I did that right there.
There's no negatives.
Don't look at these numbers too closely.
I'm looking.
So they do an interdepartmental loan, we pay interest on it.
Yeah, it has to be less than 10 years, and they have to charge at least what we get at the state pool, which right now is 1.2%.
It's not a lot, but
Yeah, you do charge, and the loan has to be less than 10 years.
Okay, thanks.
So you got about $95,000 for power and maintenance there. One of the things that American Fork City did when they've done this in the past couple of years, they've said that they've loved it. It's been really good for them. They've saved quite a bit of money. But they said you have a little reserve fund in there to be able to replace lights and do what you need to do for the maintenance, because the maintenance cost is really just to keep all of the lights running, not necessarily replacement or new lights or anything of that nature. We put in there an amount of about $35,000 that would be kind of pooled for doing repairs that are beyond just the standard maintenance. Then if you look at the total cost per year for the next 6 years, so right now we're paying $220,000 a year, and that is not projected to go anywhere but up, because as we go get more street lights on, we're going to get charged for those at the full cost. So that will continue to rise. So if you just look at the next 6 years, what is our prospect for the street lights? It's going to be $220,000 plus going into the future. So if we look at for the next 6 years and say, well, let's take that $220,000, let's purchase the street lights, let's pay our ongoing maintenance and power costs, let's put $90,000 into repayment of that, and then Now, we have tons of requests. Right now, I've got a $2,000 budget for streetlights. So that doesn't install a streetlight. So that repairs some if I need to. It's very minimal. I get requests all the time. We got a request a couple of weeks ago. Can I get a streetlight at this corner? I look at that and say, I don't have a budget for streetlights. I have something for repair if I need to, but I don't have anything to put in new streetlights. So this 35,000, about 10,000 of that is assumed directly to go into new streetlights as needed in a few areas. At least it gives us a little flexibility to address some of the concerns. And then at the end of the year, what American Fork tends to do is they utilize that full budget every year in their streetlight system by putting in a couple more if they have budget left over, but if not, then they just then they don't have any new streetlights that they put in. So that's kind of how they've been operating. I recommend that we look at doing kind of the same thing. 10,000 of new lights, and then 25,000 would be reserved until the end of the year. If we don't spend it all, then we would take and put in some additional lights in our system. So that's the proposal, the thing to discuss. Again, for the next 6 years, I'm not projecting that we'd have any savings. After that, then the projection would be about $90,000 a year in savings.
Do you know any other cities doing this?
So American Fork City recently did it. I'm not sure of any others, but there have been a number up in Salt Lake County that Black and Bronze have did it as well.
And what's the staff time? And would you have to train someone or hire someone to now take over this responsibility?
So that's a great question. Everything with regards to the existing systems would all be done by Black and McDonald, and anything that we did new would still be done by Black and McDonald. So currently, they are the primary installer for Rocky Mountain Power as well, on all the lights. So I would expect that if we wanted a new light somewhere, we would be calling Black and McDonald to come and do that as our contract.
But that cost is all rolled into the cost of it. So the $90,000 a year is going to be above and beyond any additional cost we take on.
Not after the 6 years. Is it still included in the maintenance?
Yes.
Yeah, that 90,000 is clear, right?
So when you say Black and McDonald does it, what is it that we do? Like they install
We
the
call
main
them.
Yeah, we don't do anything.
We do the same thing that we do today, which is we call Rocky Mountain Power and say there's a problem here, go do this. However, we now get rid of the middleman and the problem that we've had with coordination there. We go directly to somebody that actually fixes it.
And there's an upcharge for Rocky Mountain Power. That's why there's costs in there. And we can hire our own people to do this, but we could give up maybe 2 people, whereas Black and McDonald's a contractor, that's their
So we're
specialty.
just cutting out Rocky Mountain.
Yes.
How many streetlights can we get for $10,000? Roughly.
2 or 3. It really depends on the proximity to existing power sources. So the street lights generally are around 2,500, 2,000. Depends on the type of street light. 1,500 for some of the small town countries. But then you got to get the power there. So the trenching, whether they do that through underground
streetlights cutting out periodically, and I don't think I've ever noticed that. When I drove around, I noticed a few pop off, and I thought, are they on any kind of proximity sensor, or are they just on a light sensor? Why wouldn't someone cut out and then come back on?
They
Is
do
that
have
bad?
photo sensors, and I don't know, I've seen that around as well. Just something, their circuitry is not exactly right. It's usually the loud sound,
Your
just
air
vibration.
conditioner, you know, we're part of the money city.
Yeah.
So they just turn them off periodically.
So it's motion detected.
Yeah.
I'm sure some of their electronics and stuff doing that. The balance on the line. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone who knows.
So, yeah, she was telling me all about it. I was like, I don't think they're supposed to do that. Maybe there's some sort of proximity sensor. I can only imagine they have a light photo sensor.
So there is a whole new technology coming out with regards to smart lighting, which does deal with all the proximity sensors and light sensors and reporting back and radio, so you know exactly when their light's on, how long they're on. I mean, it's crazy, and it all comes pre-programmed into the poles. The poles are just smart poles. And anyways, eventually, we're not even going to go there yet, but there is, that's probably in the future that you're going to know what the lights are. what
So
they're
at
doing,
the
if they're
moment,
bad.
you're saying that there is, with inflation, there's approximately a $90,000 reduced cost to the citizens, right?
And understand that that's a flux, so right now we're paying $220,000 a year. That's not assuming all of these new developments that are installing lights. 90,000.
With growth and everything else, the cost would go up anyway, but there's, just with what you're proposing, it's approximately a $90,000 savings that would carry over.
And better service.
With the understanding that
Not
that's,
savings, not savings.
Yeah. that's after the 6 years. Because we have to pay off the initial capital cost.
I like it generally. Related to this issue of the ballast or whatever it is that causes them, can we do some kind of an audit and make sure that it been maintained one really last great time before we take it?
8 months from now, we'll take care.
Well, yeah, so we'll go to the whole system and make sure they're all good if we're gonna buy them from you.
And don't tell them.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know that Black & McDonald has a contract per light, and they say, okay, per light, this is what I'm going to charge you to maintain, whether it's decorative, town and country type of lighting. So if we do have a problem with the ballast, then we can deal with it without, that's in this cost. Fixing the ballast, fixing the light, those are all maintenance costs that would be covered. And, so
I think we can ask them. and
We
see
have
if
to,
they would
it sounds like
appreciate
they would do it anyway.
Yeah.
McDonald.
I don't know if they would say, yes, we'll audit all of our lines and make sure we're giving them to you in a perfect condition. That's definitely pulled out of that contract, saying it's as is, and it's yours once you sign the contract. These are your responsibility. However,
But we can, I think we can go down that road. So just, if there's some guaranteed issues, we can just take care of these before we get into it.
There's also, you heard of SLI, it's, paranormal activity claimed by ability to get visitors on streetlights with their mind.
Oh, yeah?
So when you're driving by, someone here might have SLI.
We'll put an application
Just
out.
saying.
Make that one of the qualifications.
Okay, moving right
Don't
along.
we have to pass by March? When do we have to act
Oh,
on
yeah.
that?
so the actual deadline for this, for the decision was in December, and we asked for a 3-month extension. So March 31st, and we have to know one way or the other. Otherwise, we'd have to go back and have them re-audit, send us a new contract, purchase contract, all that kind of stuff. So
So let's get the.
got 2 months.
Let's get the contract, let's get it on the agenda, and then the council at that time can make the official decision next year. Is that?
Yes. Water update.
Got a little fun playing with some of our apps. Wanted to kind of, I had a question, he texted me a question this week saying, hey, what is it compared to last year or this year and where our current water situation is? So, still water equivalent is this SWE. So when you have snow, and that snow can be dry or wet, and they do a snow water equivalent for that snowpack. So last year, looking at this date, Jeez.
That's what happens when you don't turn in for Friday.
So on a graph, this down here shows you the dates. So you can see.
You're using the wrong colors.
So,
You got red up there.
Snow is supposed to be white.
so your median is 1.9, last year was 1.6. So what are we this year at the same time? We're at 25 inches of water right now in this snow market. So we're up, you can see, double from what we were last year, even more than double. It's about 210, 212% or something.
Yeah, we only had one storm, didn't the plows go out maybe only twice last year?
Just a few times.
Yeah.
So then you kind of look at your precipitation to date. Last year, so your total precipitation, we're at 27.6 inches of water to date. Last year, you can see that number was down here in the 11, 12 range. The total precipitation for last year, which we thought was a decent year, it actually was going really strong. You can see it was going good, and then it kind of just died off there. The precipitation to date is 27.6 inches. Our total precipitation from October 1st to September 30th last year was 32 inches. So we're in the middle of January, towards the end of January, and we're already at almost 28 inches of water for the year. The average yearly precipitation that we have is 38.7 inches. That's for a full year of water. So to be at 27.6 at the end of January is pretty impressive. Coming to record years.
So if it stopped snowing now, what does that mean to our water year for our
So last year, for example, our snow water equivalent only got to 21 inches for the year, and we're already at 25 inches in January. So if it snowed no more this year, we already have more water this year than we got all of last year.
And does that put us in a drought, or does that put us in a surplus, or
We're in a surplus even if it stops snowing.
even if it stops snowing, there's enough water up there to meet the need and then some?
Well, it just means we're over 100%. I don't know.
So this is all being compared to normal, right? And for normal years, we're looking great. We can provide all of our water needs with a normal year. So yes, it's looking very optimistic that even if we got no more moisture for the rest of the year, we're still down 11 inches of moisture rainfall. But right now, with no more snow gain, we're probably looking pretty good. But it really depends on a lot of things. So temperature, how fast it warms up, those types of things. That water has to come down and get into the reservoirs. It goes also into the groundwater. So all of it's very positive for us as far as our water outlook for this year. The reservoirs likely will fill. Deer Creek will probably spill. We'll potentially lose our holdover water. But what we see happens in high water years is that even though you spill and lose all your holdover water, they typically will say, well, there's all of this water available that's excess. And so for the first month of the water year, we sometimes will get water that's free. So it doesn't count against us in our water rights or shares. And so then we don't have to use as much during the year, so we can hold over more water that is normally being counted against us. So
Is that both BI and Cultivating?
no, we're only talking PI.
Okay.
So, anyways, very positive. It's looking good. I think we've got some great infrastructure in the ground, thank goodness, that I'm not feeling as concerned of flooding, even though there are some major concerns there. If it warmed up at any time, in any given year, you could potentially see some floods. But with the ability to be able to divert some of that into the Monroe Canal pipeline, with our Grove Creek and Battle Creek pipelines, some great planning there, getting that in place so that we can try to deal with some of that water and a significant amount of it. But it's going to be critical that those are operational, and we made sure that this last year it all worked. So
And that we don't go from 20 degrees to 100 degrees.
me say one more thing. So let's tell all of our residents to use all the water they want to use because we got tons of water, right? We still can't provide the water that we need to use because we only have certain size of pipes, we only have certain size of tanks, and if everybody wants to have no water, then they can use it all in the first few hours of watering, and then we would have no water in the tanks that we run for the rest of the hour. So it's still a big issue that we, as far as enforcement and things of that nature, I'm not anticipating, this last year we had one person that was doing a little bit of the water enforcement. This year we'll probably have maybe a part-time, but I think it's critical for us that we're still encouraging conservation because we can't provide the water at the current rates that everybody would love to just use it whenever, however much they want to leave it on all day and have a golf course lawn, It doesn't work that way with the way the systems are designed, and we don't have enough money to put into it to be able to provide that much water that way.
Any questions? All right, UDOT, widening PG Boulevard, Frontage Road.
We got asked to attend a meeting from UDOT a couple of months ago, a month and a half or so ago, to discuss kind of a major pending concern. It's still, right now, it's a little bit of a concern. With further development in the Grove area, it's becoming more of a critical concern in my mind. And it's kind of been pushed to the forefront of the meeting to address how people are able to access this area down here at Pleasant Grove Boulevard interchange. Right now, with the two left lanes that turn to northbound North County Boulevard, I've been backed up here on the on-ramp, and that's what they don't want. They don't want an impact back onto the interstate system because we can't get through the light on North County Boulevard type of thing. So they're concerned about that. So they're trying to look at options and alternatives of how to combat that condition. The problem is that regardless of what you do in the near range, that this intersection here becomes very complicated. And if you've been to Walmart and University Parkway, that type of an intersection might work here, but you can see how much property and size that takes. So to meet our future demands in this area, with traffic demands, you're going to have to do some significant improvements to that intersection. Now, this is all UDOT, thank goodness, so far, that's talking about this, because they own all the way to North County Boulevard and they own North County Boulevard. But they've got to address that concern. So
Do they own Linden Boulevard as well?
Linden Boulevard, 700 North?
Yeah, it's Linden Boulevard.
I'm not sure at what point. I think they do all the way to stage.
They own
stage.
It's state run all the way. Are you talking about North County?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's state run all the way to State Street.
Is it a stage? Yeah. So I think they acquired all that. I don't know what it is. So the question is how do you deal with? You can almost not expand this enough to meet future build out. And so they're kind of looking at other alternatives of how you get traffic off the interstate and through Pleasant Grove or Kennedy Boulevard. The other thing is on the MAG long range planning, you've got this future Vineyard Connector road that's planned to come down through here. And on their planning, they're showing that Pleasant Grove Boulevard to the Vineyard Connector needs to be a 7-lane roadway. So right now we've got it as a 5-lane. So it's got a center median and then 2 lanes each direction is our current plan. It's not currently built out to that, but it will be with any new development. They're saying it would be nice to start considering what the future holds so that we're acquiring enough right-of-way that the impacts that is going to be had on those properties along the boulevard are minimized. And so they wanted us to kind of bring that back to the council and say, be aware that this is on the long-range planning to go from a 5-lane to a 7-lane pays for that, all that, that's years in the future, that's not something that's gonna be constructed in the near future. 20 years down the road, then that might be something that they're really discussing seriously. So, there is funding through MAG for projects of this type. So that wouldn't be, those are usually a 70-30 split on funding to get MAG funding. I see this, Mayor, as maybe something, 10-15 years down the road as we start talking about the projects that are regionally significant. Pleasant Grove Boulevard widening would be one of those that we're going to start.
So when you say widening, is that in addition to the widening that's being done as businesses are developing? I'm getting an automatic head nod over here.
Well, right now we have 5 lanes on Pleasant Grove Boulevard, from North County Boulevard all the way up to State Street. Most of that is 5 lanes. We have a part when it gets near doTERRA where it goes down to 2 lanes, doesn't it? Because we have the center median, or we have the planter strips in the center median. And what they're saying is you gotta add a lane on each side of that.
Immediately?
No, they're
It's
saying
a long-range planning. What they're asking, so
is to get the right of way set aside now.
We don't have the right of way on that.
Not for the 7 lanes. We
So
do for the
our-
5.
That's not what I mean. Okay.
let me clarify. Right now, we require a 112-foot right-of-way dedication along Pleasant Grove Boulevard. When somebody comes in development and says, okay, here's the center line, give me half of that, give me 56 feet, wherever that may be. What they're saying is that we're probably going to need to add another 12 foot to each side of that to accommodate another lane. So go from 112 up to 136.
Is there a plan to do that?
So, right now, they're probably, well, some where it's already developed. I mean, everybody, let's take, for example, Curtis Minor's building. We do have setback requirements in the frontage of 25 feet, so what that would make it is a non-conforming lot. You would acquire an additional 12 foot into that property, expand, maybe get rid of the planter. Instead of having a planter, you'd have maybe adjacent curb and gutter and sidewalk. So there are ways to make it work with the existing buildings because we do have a setback. But what they're saying is if you had a 0 lot line setback and you allowed somebody to build up to the current right-of-way, that becomes an issue because then now they're relocating buildings and infrastructure, not just park, landscaping, and things of that nature. Parking lot setbacks are all required, I believe, to be 25 feet as well. So that does give us the flexibility to be able for them to come in and do that. But it's nicer if we start talking about it now and say, when this development comes in, let's get that additional 12 foot on that side so that we're planned out for 20 years down the road when this widens and not.
How's the right of way?
Okay. We wouldn't have them construct 3 lanes right now. We'd have them construct 2, but you'd have the right of way to be able to construct 3 in the future.
So is this UDOT coming to us, or have you just been, these have been discussed, or just kind of your vision of what we need to work with you on interest?
So this is something that what they're asking now is for us to consider from North County Boulevard to State Street, can have a new cross-section approved in the standards that would allow for a 7-lane cross-section.
So they want our cars off of the street where they're backing up. And one of the ways to do that is widen further down so the traffic can get away from it.
Now, the other thing that is being talked about is how to distribute some of the vehicles that are getting off here and get them into doTERRA, for example, North County Boulevard, and all the traffic that comes this way. The other proposal that has come is the potential of getting rid of this off-ramp here at Pleasant Grove Boulevard, taking an off-ramp back here before the property line. Now, let me finish before you get concerned. So,
We're having technical difficulties.
so bringing an off-ramp here that would then become more of a frontage road system. So what that allows is if you got off here, you could either take and go up Proctor Lane, or there would be a frontage road that would take you and you could get off on Pleasant Grove Boulevard. So everybody going to doTERRA would likely first take that first right, and that really lessens the impact to that intersection here because people are now distributed between 2 roads. Those going to the new Grove Tower, they continue through and get off here, and then going to Grove Tower, they wouldn't get off on Proctor Lane. So it just opens up the options for people to say, okay, I want to get off at 13 west instead of at Pleasant Grove Boulevard. And that's what's been discussed, is get rid of the off-ramp, because that creates difficulty of merging traffic and things of that nature if you have an off-ramp so close to the next one, so.
So if we get rid of the off-ramp, are we willing to get rid of the rise and just take it down to grade? And cut holes for more sewer pipe or water pipes to everything else?
There's a lot of discussions. I mean, they're not getting rid of the bridge, right? So you still need to tie in a frontage road to that same location to be able to get people across there. So I would expect that the on-ramp just won't be a direct on-ramp. It'll be more of a frontage road coming up into the same location, and then people can take the same route that they currently do. And next.
Wait, I just have one question. So is the median, what's the width of the median? Is that 12 feet?
Yes, but that's not, I mean, in the 7-foot section, so it might be 14 feet
Okay.
as it currently sits. But that couldn't be worked into the widening needs, because you still need a center turn lane regardless, whether it's a 5-lane or 7-lane section.
So just a reminder, this is 20 years out. This is just all very conceptual and planning wise, so I don't think it's anything we need to send out on Facebook right now to say that this is happening tomorrow. So we just want to get it under the radar.
I think the 20 years is for Pleasant Grove Boulevard. I think this concept here is in a fairly close future, because we already have so many problems there. We haven't even got towers, we've got the Void, you've got Evergreen Gardens, you've got ASEA, you got
Hotel.
2 hotels that I've heard of. I mean, it's just, all of this is gonna be developed in the next 5 years or so, and we can't even handle the traffic up to date.
So what would they do on the other side of the street, on the other side of the freeway?
Same concept, I think, is, it depends.
So it's like University Ave, it just starts the off-ramp half a mile or so earlier, or a mile earlier. It's the same off-ramp. It's just coming off earlier. Maybe runs at grade or something.
Well, if
That's
that,
exactly right.
if that frontage road, if you could get out there on the
Just relocate.
Noah Street, and you keep the on-ramp, and you're out, you got both, you got double whammy. And then over there by Stewart's, if you do the same thing, then that,
So, I mean, I think this is the only place we're looking at is those 2 intersections. It's not gonna continue up or down, because 5th East is already where it is, but, on the other side, I think it just depends on the demands. They'll look at that, and if there's a study being done right now, I talked with them last week, JEB is doing a study for them that should be out in the next couple of months that'll give more, they've taken all of the traffic impact studies that have been done in this area with all the development happening, and all of them have come in individually and saying, this is our impact, and now we're taking all of them as a whole, analyzing that and saying, okay, this is what we really expect for this area in the near range future. That study should be out, I think, in the next couple of months, and I think that's what's going to drive some of the decisions that happen in the near future to be able to make this actually operate and function properly.
Whose project is this?
Everything we've discussed so far is UDOT, and then we probably wouldn't have a lot of stake in the game there, so.
We do.
Well,
This is gonna affect our economic development and our off-ramp. So it directly affects us and impacts us.
but you're.
What I'm interested in
you
is,
don't have to come up with one lump sum of money.
No.
Yes, it huge impacts to
the money for the development will come through UDOT. It'll come probably through the MAG process or something, where we'll discuss what the impact is. But as far as the design and how that off-ramp works, so that it actually benefits the traffic without impacting the business, that's what I'm concerned about. That's what I'm interested in. Before a hotel and a convention center, before a Grove Tower, all these things, I mean, we gotta address this.
I think what you got saying is if we don't address this, you're going to have a worse problem.
I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with addressing it. I want to address it.
Not okay with the word problem.
Not okay with
numbers, if we can get a better solution than what UDOT's offering to do, we may even be willing to help make it a better solution if there's something.
They're doing the traffic study now, and so when that comes back, then we get.
So this is like now? This is being discussed right now?
That is correct.
Is it being discussed at
Tap.
TAC, or where is it being discussed?
No, UDOT came to us, not that we didn't know that there was an issue in the near range future, but there has been no planning previous to this to say, this is what we need to do. I mean, the interchange functionality, the way UDOT works is they wait till there's an issue that justifies the funding. And so they came to us and saying, hey, we're starting to see an issue here, and we've been talking with you about all these new plans, we've been approving new plans. We want to relook at this and come up making sure that we've accounted for upcoming near-range future issues. So,
Okay.
I'm
So are you appropriately representing us as far as you have input into the process, the design, and, I mean, even the conceptual discussions around how this thing might work? I mean, I'm trying to convey in a really nice way. I'm really worried about changing this intersection. I want to make sure that they change it and fix the traffic, and it doesn't destroy the economic development of that intersection.
Yeah, I like the off-ramp earlier.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what the study's going to tell us, right? That's what they're doing the analysis to say, this is what needs to happen to accommodate all the growth, traffic, it's all tied together with it. If you can't get access to something, then obviously it's going to be having a huge economic impact to the area. So it's all tied together. They came to us, we will be involved in the design, but it's not even, we're getting through the study phase first. We're hoping in the next few months we'll have some results of what they recommend, and then we can start discussing the impact to properties. Now, right now, what I see down there doesn't, if we add another lane from Pleasant Grove Interchange down to North County Boulevard, yeah, there's some planters that would be impacted there. The look of the frontage would be a little bit impacted there. The overall economic development, I don't think is significant for doing that.
Mayor, do they have a way of knowing what's coming?
Who?
UDOT?
Yes.
They know about the project.
They know about all these projects. I mean, we've made them aware that this is.
Yeah, they're very aware. We've
The
gone in and
conversations that
sat
we're
with them.
having with.
We've gone in and sat with UDOT, talked about access off of this freeway, talked about the right-of-way along the part that they own, and talked about moving traffic into these areas that are around it. And we've actually worked on solutions to make sure that that can happen. So it's a little concerning to me, maybe just because I haven't had lunch. But it's concerning to me when you mention we're going to get rid of the interchange. That's concerning. And the other part that's concerning is it would move to this other road. When those two ideas are being floated, get rid of this interchange, it's now a flyover, and the access is now over here. I think the economic development impact along what has already been invested in and designed and approved could be significant. So I just want to make sure that that is absolutely at the forefront of whichever engineers are looking at this, and make sure that they understand it's not just moving cars. There's a reason that these cars are coming to this interchange. And a lot of them are coming here for the reason that the people who bought it and are developing, that's why they're there. So, thank you, Marty. Where's the pizza?
I'm working on it, ask a question. Maybe it's neither here nor there since we're after the fact. But UDOT was the one who designed this interchange. Mexico City spent interchange to State Street, which was for the same purpose. I'm just wondering why this interchange is not that old. Pleasant Grove City has invested millions of dollars in supporting that interchange to now have UDOT come back 10 years later, maybe not even 10 years, and say, oh, sorry, it's not working now. Well, where was the pre-planning back then for the traffic numbers, which I assume we all knew and were counting on? That's why we invested to create that corridor. I don't get it.
Can the mayor and Tina, can you be involved in any of
That's the part that's a little surprising. I don't want to be too alarmist. I mean, I realize this is the first time I'm hearing about it, very first time, and it's just being looked at. I get that. So now is the time. Thank you for making us aware. Right now, while you're looking at it, is the time for us to get involved with the Region 3 Director and talk about the concerns that we want to express on how this ends up getting designed. During the impact study, during the analysis, whatever, we don't just want a traffic moving answer. It has to consider the reason this interchange was built and the reason that the businesses have decided to locate here. That has to be part of the equation. So they need to design around that while they're designing around the cars. So yeah, if we need to be present at these meetings, great. I think you can carry the message with the engineering staff, the technical people, no problem. But we need to get in front of the region.
Yeah,
But the thing is, the history with both, the interchange and the legality, are we, Marty, I don't know if you have the history on, that's why I put that in something to attend. So they, I don't know, so I was saying that you got officials who, were there, I don't know.
It wasn't.
Well, do we have influence and input?
We do.
Okay.
The procedure is that you go through technical first. Marty's just making us aware of it today. I mean, I don't think you've made us aware before. Basically.
We just started filming that ourselves, so
So, that's the first step, right? The technical people came to the technical people and said, there's a problem, we foresee, we need to address this. In the meantime, now that we've been made aware, we don't know what the final outcome is going to be. We just need to appropriately step in and express ourselves at the other level, the political level. And then it'll balance out when it gets to the region 3.
Just get rid of my strike from the reference that I said, get rid of Clover Boulevard. It's all going to operate, it's going to provide a little bit of that traffic. And I think that's where the concern is, Mayor, and what we're saying is, if they had projected this much traffic here, and that's how they're doing their business models and things of that nature, now it's separated from Crocker Lane to Pleasant Grove Boulevard a little bit, but the access, the overall access is not necessarily, it's not going to get rid of the access to that point. So people are going there. So,
Thank you. It's struck, it's just thank you. Get the pizza here, let's move on.
Get them some cheese curds from Beaver.
All right, anything else on UDOT? That's enough?
I'll say this, Mayor, the message is clear. We understand what's at stake here.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't pick up the banner and discuss
That's
this
right.
now, there's going to be a lot of people talking to the governor. They're just going to go right past everybody, and the governor's going to hear about this immediately, and it'll happen somewhere else. And we won't even be involved in the conversation.
That's right.
Okay. Scott, we need to set this.
Okay.
Okay, library.
It's the last item on Marty's show.
Sorry, I'll hold you.
you know, I was talking further about,
No, I
And they all saw the previous three, and
I think what's evident, so at some point there was a discussion about budget for the elevator project. And that amount that's in there is not sufficient to be able to do the elevator project that we're envisioning. So that happened when they went and got the funding from MAG to be able to do that, the grant. Then they set the dollar amount at that point. And right now, our least bid on the last one is still 70,000 more than what we had available. So the question is I think contractors obviously can say, well, they're never going to build this. Why are they asking for another bid? I'm not surprised if we didn't get another bid at this point. But the question is now, how do we move forward with that? Do we, I think more funding has, I think we've got another $28,000 that they committed to the project, so they were willing to step up with some additional grant funding available, but we still haven't come to anywhere close to what we need to be able to get it. So I think contractors are just saying, well, I've bid this 3 other times, they haven't awarded it. There's still a budget issue, so they were willing to do it.
If this were part of a larger project, would that affect the bidding at all?
Sure.
So, when we put this on the agenda, we were under an assumption we were going to have a number, and we were going to have a discussion about the council authorizing funds so we could build this right away. Since we don't have a number, we have a game plan, we just haven't had a chance to sit down yet, because Marty's been gone, and we just found out on Wednesday that we didn't have any days. We have a plan A and a plan B to tackle this and get it back in front of the council. So, if, at this point, if you give staff an opportunity, we'll revisit this, we can come back with plan A and plan B.
Give us an hint as to what the
Plan A would be, if we put out a bid and nobody bids, then we have to come to the legal aspect. Can we now just engage in a discussion with the contractor and work something out?
Okay.
So, because we've gone through the bid process.
What would plan B?
Plan B would be having a part of the public safety
That's
building.
what I was thinking yesterday. Can we include this as part of, as a, not financially as part of it, but have the same?
Yeah, so we make it part of the bid with the contractor, and then we would just pull the funding that we have to cover, so we're going to impact the public safety. So that's plan B.
would it have to wait until they
Yeah,
were
plan
ready
B.
to build?
Yeah.
Would have to-
So plan B would be a year from now, whereas plan A we could possibly get done in the spring, so.
And along with that, maybe we should be looking at these other things that need to be done in addition to the elevator, to the library at that point. You know, not the whole ball of wax or whatever, but the plan on what other things could be accomplished that would be economical because it's part of a larger bid.
Yeah, we can take a look at that. I mean, most of the stuff is kind of smaller, with some of the painting and the carpeting and that type of thing. Yeah, we can take a look at that and see as far as that's concerned. So they're just running set aside.
Anything else on the elevator?
Nope.
Okay, downtown park.
All right.
Diana.
Let's see.
Just an FYI, we have a pizza coming, it'll be here at 1, we're ready at 1.
It'll be here one.
Be here.
We'll be done with it.
All right, so included in our public safety building bond money and our, I should say, our public safety buildings and our, there's, in fact, I don't know if there is a line item for landscaping. I don't know what was allocated there, but I think it just includes the landscaping around the buildings. The landscape of the park is going to change, and so I wanted to just have a conversation. I wanted to let you know a direction that I'm thinking, and so this is just, I'm going to spill some brain thoughts. still be in keeping with the architecture of what is actually built. Okay, so Marty, go to the first. So blow that one up. So, for example, if, and this would not be in taking over any grass area that was, that is the park right now. But I think that there still needs to be a gathering hub in the park, and I think it, so for example, this example is about, I think a 40 by 40, the cost of that is about $80,000. That does not take into consideration the lights and the parkway. But if my back was at the front doors of the police station and I'm looking out towards the park, this would just be one concept. Right now at the University Parkway, or they have some smaller structures, but that have, but there's more of them. My proposal and my idea is that we do this very much like Mike did with the Discovery Park, and that is that we really engage public to say, like a GoFundMe, but really organized, with the hoods and their contribution. I'm thinking to make this really a nice area. We're looking at $400,000, $500,000. If I had 2 more pavilions on either side. Anyway.
Can you go back to the overview, the bird's eye? Where would this structure be?
So, and that's all going to be part of the whole layout after the architects and the figure out where parking needs to be. I know that we are going to have that area where the park is, the playground is right now. And if the building is moved to more closer aligned with First South, I do know that we are going to have, we're talking about the seminary building. We're also talking about, even if we removed the pavilion that's existing, that would still give us some more park space. So the bathrooms, for example, are going to be part of one of the buildings, so that also gives us some more space. I know that we're going to probably, we're going to need some more parking, so I know that there's a land use conversation that we can have.
So you're just proposing the concept that the park itself needs to be a more centerpiece, so to say,
And have the spaces be more functional.
for gathering
Yes.
and attracting.
Taking into account all of the events that happen there, and what really does need to be used. And for what purpose. I know, for example, that when food trucks pull up, they love to have access to electrical. I know that if the pavilion was lit at night, so Marty, can you go to the other photos of up?
Where's this, is it along University Park? Where are they saying they're going to put this?
This is already built, and I'm going to show you pictures. This is it right here.
Oh.
This is the park where, I think, was it Marvin's? For those of you who are old. I remember.
What building is in front of us?
That's H&M and University.
University Place.
This is University Place. This is the Woodbury development that is the addition to the old University Mall.
Where's Costco?
Costco behind you. so right here they have a stage where people are performing, but right here, I don't know if you can see, these are individual, probably 20 by 20s, and they're just pergolas, which are not, it's not a gazebo, it's more like there's 4 posts and some.
It's open.
It's open.
A little bit of shade.
Which also gives them the ability in the summer to just go have some of those tarp flag-like
Campus cover.
canvas covers. Okay, go to the next one.
Well, I'm just trying to.
Want to get up there and help her?
Well, I know what you think now, but we're thinking of it.
So this is in the evening, and they also have these, so the pergolas are right here. Anyway, go to the next one. I
We
think
get the
I have.
lights too, the
And the lights.
fire lights.
And I like the crisscross patterns of them. And I'm sorry that this is not good lighting to actually show, but these are much less expensive than the gazebos. But they have underneath the pergolas in the winter time, and I don't know if I have a winter time. Do I have one more? Oh. So in the evening, in the winter, they have those gas fireplace heaters, so you can, and then they have just very nice, comfortable seating, and so it's just very, very comfortable for gathering. Anyway, so I know that that materials would be a whole lot cheaper, very similar to the conversation with the elevator. In a mass buy materials list, the materials for any type of this work is going to be cheaper. But if I get scout groups and, if I use the organization of the church and the neighborhoods, and we can really try just see how much money we can raise, I think that it would just be a lot of, just really update that park to the point where it would really become usable space.
So conceptually, this would be a community-built project,
Yes.
and the funds would all come from donations.
Correct.
The land would be the city's, and the park would be owned by the city when it's done.
Correct.
So Deal's crew would be part of the group with the design and engineering behind it. There would be separate groups that do all the fundraising, et cetera. And when would you kick this off?
I have to now. If we're going, well, first of all, for look and feel, architecturally, I want it to be I want this space to also be very flowing with clearly the downtown alliance. Ken would be very helpful in the design of it, because I want it to still look and feel like Old Town. I love the first gazebo, just because the look was very similar to what was on the corner of Coquelitos, the old Smiths. But I also want it to be usable space. When I went through the first time, it was in the evening down here there were people, and it was a chilly evening, but there were people sitting in each of the pavilions, or these gazebos, pergolas, just chatting. There was just it was a beautiful evening. And I just thought, we have that very large pavilion that I think has maybe served its time. I think now people are more interested in smaller gathering spaces. I think those are a little bit more used. I don't know if the old pavilion can be repurposed to another park. But I would just like to have some fun with the community and see what we can accomplish.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I think maybe one of the first steps we should take in something like this is maybe come up with a list of the amenities
what is, yeah, sorry.
Some of the, in some of the proposals we have from the architects now that we're going over, they're proposing using kind of the park as the gateway to the court's police building. And it's really kind of, whoa, we could, that's gonna make it nice. And so that really, you know, the entrance coming out on the park, taking advantage of the green and with the different, you know, so that's, I'm glad to see some effort there because I think in conjunction over the next year and a half, 2 years, there's our opportunity to really rebrand the whole downtown there.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. I would think, Diana, that probably the approach is, you know, like when I did it, it's, if you come up with a good idea and you've got a committee and it's all moving in the right direction, then, you know, bring it back, make sure Deal and his crew are involved, and because we're doing this multi-million-dollar structure adjacent, make sure it's tight and coordinated, and then bring it back to the council and
Yeah.
say, okay, here's what we're proposing, here's how it fits in, here's how much it's gonna cost, here's when it's gonna be built, you know, this is how they're gonna maintain it, this is how Strawberries fits in, all those other things, and a time frame. And then let's go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'd like to, if we could ask for Sid's assistant too, because she's had some thoughts on improving some of the events in there too, so.
Yeah, from a design perspective and all that, yeah, I think the more input, the better. That's probably gonna be the hardest thing is there won't be a lack of people with creative ideas. It's how do you take all those creative ideas and incorporate them and still have a cohesive design and not piss everybody off with their design that can get selected. But if you wanna step up and organize them, you know.
So another thing is that I know that a portion of, like the GoFundMe, I know that goes towards the administration of GoFund. So I also need to know how we're gonna collect money legally with all of it going towards.
I think it's back to getting the 501c3.
proposing there, that would work. To wait till after.
So right now, from what you're seeing with all their info gathering and everything, they're gonna be tied up until that point. So there's no need to demo what's there.
I don't think so, because I think they can do the geo and everything, because around that building, would you think so, that your studies on that?
Yeah.
Do you foresee any issues with that?
No, I haven't had a chance to look through the proposals yet. If, let's say design takes 4, 5, 6 months, then there probably won't be a need to put a shovel in the ground until a little bit after that. And if we do have a little bit of flexibility either way, and if we decide today, let's just focus on having that building through Strawberry Days, then in some ways, that makes the planning moving forward a little bit easier. If we wait for our architect to be on board and for them to start design, it will be probably 6 weeks before we'll know for sure, whether that's an impact or not. Like I said, the proposals right now are kind of coming through on timelines, and they're saying,
I'd say if Carnival moves out at midnight, the demolition crews show up at 6 in the morning.
There you go.
Oh, that's Sunday. Oh, can't be.
Council, any objection to that?
I wonder, maybe, speak to this as a matter of law, this is an item on our agenda. Can we make a decision on changing, setting a date or something that's not noticed?
Well, if you guys want, we'll just put it out on the item, make a small action.
I think we can go ahead and do that for formality purposes, but it sounds to me more like an executive decision. So we're just gonna delay it. We can acknowledge to the different groups that they will not have to displace or up and through Strawberry.
So we have some in here.
Sorry, go ahead.
What date were you thinking? Because I'll make plans to have our equipment out of there into
For the demo?
Yeah.
I think the actual demo date now is gonna come back from the committee.
Okay.
We're just saying not before. Not before Strawberry Days.
that's right, the earliest could be would be like the 3rd week of June.
And I appreciate that, because that was also Strawberry Days, if you want to put in the booklet that says come into our old rectory and states, that will help with the historical committee giving their timeline. These, the boutiques want to have their last kind of draw, in May, and I'll come do a Mother's Day show. So I think that would help, so I appreciate that. And then letting residents know as well that they can look forward to that date.
So we'll ratify that at our next meeting.
Actually, can the historical department know about the party?
Yeah, we
We
can.
might want to coincide that
So
actually.
it's public.
We'll let them know. Yeah, that's right.
Let's take a break and grab our